Elimination match to elimination match. The University of New Mexico up against Colonel Esports here in what will be a battle for the ages. But of course, it's one of those things to where, Cash, we have to talk about more scenarios, more things going forward. But first and foremost, as we collected our thoughts from that last Game 5, we now find ourselves here in another fun series.
Yeah, another one that once again has the potential to go the distance whenever you put elimination on the line. Teams are going to play their heart out just to make sure that they walk away with the win. So this is one, looking at these squads, and as we'll dive into here in just a few moments, something that could very much go the distance. But again, you could look at Series 2. It sounds like such a wishy-washy thing to say and undecisive. One team could also come in 3-0, and again, that's so hard to tell given the gameplay. We thought last series would have been a 3-0 given how Tamu came out. It's just so hard to call night in and night out. But again, an exciting series nonetheless, and one I'm excited to dive into.
Yeah, I mean, in a day-to-day game like Call of Duty, and especially Vanguard, it's very difficult to tell what kind of players and what type of team chemistry we're going to be getting, even from a team that we've seen for months at this point on any given night. So, talking about scenarios real quick, again, with this being an elimination match, New Mexico has yet to play Oregon, which should be the deciding matchup for Group H to see who moves on. But at least for right now, New Mexico's not in the biggest kind of chokehold of being eliminated, but again, a loss here basically eliminates them in general. But for Colonel Esports, they need a win to stay alive inside of the playoffs right now, because they are currently sitting at a 1-1 record overall inside of their pool. And, if New Mexico were to lose this, then it would be Oregon versus, New Mexico to see who would not finish at 0-2 inside of the bottom of that division inside of Group H. So right now, let's just basically call it an elimination match, because it's exactly what it is. 15-6 though on the season for the Colonel Esports roster. We've had the pleasure of casting both of these rosters a considerable amount of times, so we know what to expect in at least a generalistic degree for both of these teams.
We do, and here for Colonel Esports coming in with a 15-6 record of sitting at 15-13 hard point, 14-7 in the S&D, and 7-6 in the control. Definitely to the counterpart of New Mexico, looks a bit better. Of course, the hard point looks a little more rivaled, and the search and destroy sure could be coin tossing on a given night, but it's the control. Once we get to that map number 3 for New Mexico, a dire one no matter what situation they're facing, whether they're up 2-0 or 1-1, or no matter how the series looks. One that if they can pull off the upset would definitely swing momentum in their favor to either close out a series or give themselves just a wind of life to get back into one. For Colonel Esports and Nickel State, your work's cut out for you. Close the series out as fast as you can. We saw in our previous series, when you give a team life within a series, it can definitely spell disaster for you. So for Nickel State, you don't want to waste any more time than need be. You look like the better team on paper. Now go out and get it done tonight.
Yeah, well, especially when you choke hold and slam them in map number 1 of a hard point, and then proceed to lose the next 2 maps straight, which albeit were close, and then proceed to go ahead and once again choke slam them on a map 4 Gavutu. I digress. Again, it's S&Ds that win championships. You win the control mode of swing map 3, whatever. Okay. Head-to-head rosters, though, we'll keep the current topic on the two teams here. New Mexico's roster going into this match, of course, will consist of Maddie, Domers, Solar, and Roque. Again, as I said beforehand, Cash and I have had some great experience with both of these teams overall inside of the West, being able to cast upon and over them. But this University of New Mexico squad, from what I can say, is that they have been relatively inconsistent throughout the entirety of the season. We've seen great highs, and we've also seen some unfortunate lows.
We have, and this team finds the most success when all 4 players are playing together. Some teams maybe have that one superstar. You think of Playoff Red Chase that comes to mind, where it's the catalyst of one person that gets things going for them. For this New Mexico squad, it's all 4 players coming together and playing not only in tandem, but off of one of each other's movements around the map. That's where they're able to string together success. But like you said, they've had high highs, they've had low lows. You can, wipe all of that away and start to make a new legacy for your season by coming out with a good win here tonight. And these are 4 players that definitely have the potential to do so. We just need to actually see it with our own eyes tonight.
Opposition side, Colonel Esports roster. This is a team that has grown on me over the course of the season, Cash. I'm not sure if it's the same for you, but again, watching a majority of their games that have been on broadcast this season, Dreco, CMAC, Wajan, and Hunter. This is a team that has been consistently growing and expanding upon what they know over the course of the CCL season. And again, I think this is one of those moments to where, and not only can they clutch up here, I think it'll give them a wonderful boost of confidence going into the not only postseason, in into the actual bracket play, but I fancy their chances in a first-round matchup really with the majority of teams that are up there. This is a team that not only has the ability to get hot at the right times, but you give them one map, they will take an entire mile and they'll take a series with it.
They definitely will, and every time I've, been able to cast this team, I talk about the duo in C-Mac and Hunter, and whenever they can get to power positions around the map or just start to flow really well off of each other, Wage and Dreco are going to do their thing around the map as well, but if this duo starts off electric, this is going to be a dangerous series for the side of New Mexico. Like you said, you give them an inch and they'll take a mile and then some. So for Colonel Esports, a very solid roster through and through. You come in boasting a 15-6 record. But once again, it's playoff time, so you can't take anything for granted. Come out and take care of business. I expect nothing less from this roster tonight.
Absolutely. Well, we'll take a look at our map set here across this best-of-5 series. If you were with us for the last series, you will notice that there will be a consistent theme from the previous best-of-5 to this best-of-5, even with completely different teams. We'll start on map number 1 with a Tuscan. Map number 2 will be a Tuscan, and map number 3 in the guaranteed map set that we will have in front of us will be a Tuscan, Bacage, Hardpoint, and then a Berlin Search and Destroy to round out this best-of-5 series. Will we need more than 3 maps? Well, we have yet to see just that. However, one thing I will say is the best game mode for both of these two teams is their hard points, and that's exactly where we'll start this series out in map number 1.
Tuscan's such a great map for that. Bacage also going to be a very interesting one if the series goes that way to a map number 4. Definitely something I'm excited to keep my eyes on. But kicking things off on a Tuscan once again, it's one where we've seen, in our previous series, I know we keep calling back to it, but it's been won in 7 hills. It's been won in 3.5 rotations. This is a map that can give you every kind of look if your team comes out and knows how to play it well. So, like you said, it is the best map in mode, or it's the best mode, for either squad. Who's going to come out and be more ready. It's something that's so hard to call off the rip because the opening break not only can be oh so critical, but how you respond to taking a hit as well.
Taking a look at kind of the keys to success here inside of the series, we'll start talking about New Mexico, and I feel like that has to be, just getting off to a quick start against the Colonel Esports roster inside of map number 1. But if there's really anything that I want to look to, you want to get Maddie and Dahmers involved early and often inside the majority of these maps, because that is going to net you tons of success throughout an entire series.
Maddie, absolutely. That's someone who, if you can get him to the position he's comfortable in throughout the map and set him up for success, that sets your team up for success as well and allows all 3 players to play around that. So, yeah, for New Mexico, really the overarching key to success for me and for this squad is keep yourself within striking distance in every map and mode. It's something I've maybe been able to say every week with series I've watched. At some point, you can look at a team and say, you need to keep yourself within striking distance. You get blowout hard points, and even if you start playing more towards the tail end, well, you let it get a little too messy and sloppy in the first half, and you weren't able to keep it close after that. So keep yourself 1 round away. We've seen so many handshakes, search and destroys, and yeah, it gets hard to call here and there, but for the team playing it, it is something you can definitely capitalize on, win 2 straight rounds, and win a series that way. So for New Mexico, if you want to do it, it has to be clean. You've got to keep yourself within striking distance. If you find yourself down, but really take whatever this Colonel State team gives you early. It's not going to be much. You're going to have to force a little bit and try to make something happen out of nothing. But if you can and capitalize on that, you'll find success.
Well, speaking of Nicholls State, we'll talk about, I guess, their keys to success in this same breath. Number 1, and first and foremost, you mentioned it beforehand, C-Mac and Hunter, that duo needs to be firing on all cylinders for them to have clicking success. But it goes back to Dreco and Wajan as well, as they can be 2 players that not only have a tremendous success and in cohesion with C-Mac and Hunter, but in their own right, they can take games and series over as well. So, sure, it's the fact you want to get C-Mac and Hunter going early, but I think capitalizing on map number 1, allowing Colonel Esports to get that lead going into map number 2, having a 1-0 series advantage, I think you give them the opportunity to close it out in map number 3 in a control on Tuscan as well. I think they're going to be able to not only get the job done, but I think they should be able to surpass this series with flying colors if you're able to get those players going early and you're able to take map number 1.
And Tuscan is one where you give your players the freedom to do that, not only in the AR, but the SMG role as well. And even though we kind of talk about the squad having 2 duos, they play so fluidly together as 4. It never looks discombobulated. When it does, props to the team, because that is something that they can capitalize on whenever you do catch this team lacking in their small moments where they are. It is something you need to be ready to take advantage of, but you don't see it too often here. And as we open things off here in the Tuscan hardpoint, New Mexico, on the good side, getting an early bit of time here on P1.
Jump in after about 10 seconds ticked on the side of University of New Mexico. Colonel Esports looking to go ahead and make their break through the field side of things, but Solar will pop this game open with a dominant map with 6-0 already to his name. Finally, he'll get cut down, but that would have been streaks on the board at the same time. Either way, Dreco, though, finding 2, will knock Colonel Esports into the spawn side of things over by P2 for the University of New Mexico. You got a great amount of time on P1. Now you have to break over towards P2.
For Colonel Esports, you're chalking it up. Just, didn't win that one, and you didn't let them get all of the time. 3/4 of it is a good bit, but still a win to be able to get this rotation over to P2. You just got to hold on for this initial break, and that'll really grant you a more substantial amount of time. But as these spawns come in the back for New Mexico, it is going to be player A and C-Mag able to blow this up and mitigate this attack. Does just that by popping 3. Teammates take care of business. Well, I thought so in and around the point. They finally do a little delayed, but C-Mac, that's the one we wanted to see getting started early along with his duo Hunter. If Hunter can pick it up here, Colonel Esports will be right back in this.
Beautiful shots from Dreco over the top. We're going to allow Colonel Esports to mitigate the time University of New Mexico could get on the break that they had towards P2. Now we start to look out to the rotation of P3 all the way across the map by the well. And as Hunter has got the fountain side first, we'll try to get into back wine. It's going to be 2 players from the University of New Mexico making their way up the map thus far. Player number 5 will spawn close, though, so you have some reinforcements here if you are Colonel Esports. But the first gunfight will go your way. The second one should get picked off here in just a moment. But Dahmer's in the backside's left spawns is going to keep the spawns close for the University of New Mexico when another big gunfight. That'll be number 3 in a row. Colonel Esports were not able to get the best on the rotation here. It's about an even game as we go to P3.
A great rotation and great job from Dahmers to stay alive on a 4 streak as well, but instead of challenging for that 3rd kill, just stayed alive knowing his teammates were coming in off of roof. So a great heads up play coming in from this New Mexico squad here. Yeah, you're not getting a ton of time on this for the time being, but you are keeping Colonel Esports off of it where they responded big on P2. So from the front, Colonel Esports are able to get in, and with an opportunity to get back in about 30 seconds left, New Mexico may give this one more crack at scrap time, but they were able to flip out and now have spawns for P4. They look to hang on to that and maybe throw one off life here and there for scrap to contest, but they hold on.
See, that was so funny because, like, you're gonna get the last 15 seconds of time, but Dreco had to be so pissed when he was in the hill right there because he got naded 3 times, stunned 4 times, and then finally got cut down, and he could not regen his health whatsoever. So that was a bit of fun there on the back end of P3, but as we rotate to P4 into the front of the church, it's gonna be C-Mac and Hunter, the duo being able to knock down 2, but Solar's in a one-man army in a move towards P4's Notion will be able to go ahead and one fell swoop clean up those 2 players. 1 versus 1 back towards the point. Players trying to get set up on another break here from Colonel Esports, but as the lead's about to change yet again for the side of University of New Mexico, they've done a good enough job of being able to win the gunfights to the front to get themselves a nice bit of time here at the early P4.
Player 7 and Hunter wins a big one, allowing for a pinch opportunity here on P4, and Church is trying to hunt for any of these players, is able to find one, and forces the other players to kind of scramble off the hill, granting Colonel Esports a bit of time. But as I say that, 3 go down, and once again New Mexico winning the last bit of scrap time, spawning deep, at least trying to make this P5 rotation. If you are Colonel Esports, really players flooding each lane of the map trying to win 1v1 gunfights, and so far they're going your ways. You go 3 for 1 in the feed and win the gunfights on transition, so the first bit of P5 time should be going their way. Now for Nickel State, you're trying to figure out where these spawns are coming in and where New Mexico's hits coming from.
Nade from Matty to P5, going to be able to hit 1, back them all the way up into that right side corner. You hop in towards the point on 4 in a row here is Matty, but with only 15 HP, you're going to have to get out of dodge, and down below is Dreco waiting in the bottom cell Dweller to be able to cut everybody down that tries to go ahead and push on in. Colonel Esports will take the lead yet again here, the first to cross to that 100-point mark and get to triple digits. University of New Mexico on the outside looking in, but the biggest storyteller here, at least early in map number 1, is Rocky at 1 in 13 overall on that score line. That is not how you start at a hard point, and it's a miracle that they're only down by 15.
If Rocket can start to find any kind of life, yeah, like you were saying, that's only going to bode well for New Mexico as they are able to break in, and at a 7-point differential with only 10 seconds left, a very good hold for Colonel State out of this P5 here. They need to look to get more time on P1. It was 45 seconds that went the way of New Mexico the first go around. They're going to try to change that here as the second set of rotations pop and players are flooding in through mid-map. If they can keep mid-map control, that should grant them a very substantial amount of time on P1. Of course, they're going to look to make the rotation too, but Dreco and co bullying out of Church and P4, not letting anyone get close to the time. You would think it's control the way they're pushing this out, but at the moment can do no wrong.
First set of 5 hills was about as even as it could possibly get. Here, though, basically flipping P1 around. University of New Mexico the first time was able to get the majority of time. This time, though, Colonel was on the rotation. They got the first 30. Now it's time for the University of New Mexico side of things to get back in going back on P1. Either way, the Lobos go ahead and fall all the way back. Colonel Esports can now make their way through and through. They're going to have to try and influence P2 from the P1 spawn side. Basically, again, it's the exact opposite of how things went in our first rotation.
And I think that's a win for Colonel Esports. You get, once again, 45 seconds of time and get a push through to P2. You're finding kills, gunshots are flowing very smoothly. Dreco at 23 and 15. Having a map so far, and Hunter on a 4 streak as well. Gonna look to try to play around that. No one on the time, but you're just trying to look to pick some kills. Get some time here and there. Any amount of time works for Nickel State. You have them pinned in a spawn trap, and find yourselves up 50 points at this point, so a great explosion here in the second half of the map for Nickel State.
24 and 17 from Dreco. Minute in the hill. Solar, 2 kills go his way over the top. A team kill there as well, but fortunately enough, you're going to be able to hold yourself inside of P2. And Cash, if you direct your attention to the mini-map real quick, you can see player number 1 has already made his way all the way across the map and set up in the spawn side. It was a very early rotation there from the University of New Mexico, which will allow Colonel Esports to get the rest of that scrap time on P2. And this ballsy play, if it works out, he's going to be called a hero. If it doesn't work out, though, it's going to be considered one of the worst plays ever because you gave the side of Colonel Esports free time and in the availability to go ahead and extend that lead.
Maddie finds one, but is sprinting out the wrong direction and gets caught in the back by C-Max. So, doesn't quite work out. The kill feed goes 4 for 1, and, you know, it's not as quite bad as the Brewski play on control that we had seen earlier. Sorry for catching us straight there, but definitely one that didn't amount to much for Maddie. New Mexico are able to break in from the front, fortunately for them, but needing about 60-70 points here to mount this comeback. They've got to get started here.
Dahmer's in and around the point. Solar at 27 and 15 now for the University of New Mexico. Rockgate was at 1 and 13 to start out the game, 9 and 20 ever since then. So it's been about an 8 and 7 performance since, but it's a lot better than 1 and 13 to the first set of hard points, P1 through P5. 202 to 150. The University of New Mexico has started to make their way back in this game. However, it's going to need a strong hold over towards the church and maybe some spawns to get influence at the same time. But the problem is, it was Solar in towards the top of radio. C-Mac looking to challenge back. You're wasting time here over towards the radio side in P5, but you're also giving yourselves the advantage back in towards P4, making sure that you can win the majority of gunfights in and around the point. 2 versus 1 on the hill right now. Maddie not looking to challenge just yet, waiting for teammates to get a bit closer. We'll get cut down as a 2-0 trade as the Colonel Esports roster will continuously hold down the church.
All 4 players opting to hit through side church door. C-Mac passing all of this information to the squad, and for New Mexico, you've got to get in and contest. But unfortunately, Hunter and C-Mac go big and go for 4. The duo we needed to see get electric tonight do just that. With not much time left to get to the site and contest, 10 seconds needed for Nickel State to take map number 1 win. New Mexico, they can hardly get close.
You're winning all the gunfights around the point. C-Mac out to the ramp side door. You're looking for one last challenge to contest here from the University of New Mexico. But Colonel State, they've gone ahead. They found themselves in towards the point. 2 seconds left in the rotation over towards P5. It's a one-on-one gunfight off screen. That's going to go in the favor of Dahmer to hold on for a bit more time, but with only 2 seconds needed here, Cash, this one looks to be just about over. It's going to be one good hit here from Colonel Esports to get in towards that point. An 8 kill over the top, and now C-Mac will be on a flank. A team kill that does no good to anything else, and a few more players now making their spawn up. C-Mac there. Again, you're just prolonging the inevitable here, and I'm just trying to talk over to the fact that Colonel Esports can take the win here.
Essentially waiting for that last break to come in, as you're saying, in New Mexico. We said they needed to keep themselves within striking distance in the series. Sure, you mount a slight comeback, but again, the score line and the deficit gets to be a bit too much that you still find yourself losing by 70 points, even if you can get substantial amount of time since the tail end of that game. Colonel Esports hold on. And again, it was C-Mac and Hunter for me in that P4 that really put that out of reach. Yep. I mean, you stood a chance possibly if you were in New Mexico, but those kills granted them 20 more seconds of P4 time, forcing them to have to chow that for scrap time. They end up winning it and forcing it to, halfway through a P5. But again, the squad combined for a wonderful map 1 showing. Wasian doesn't have the best of map number 1, but you know that his presence was felt and the comms were there with how the squad came out and took care of business.
Nothing to write home about there from Wasian and or Roque, but it's one player's team that goes ahead to win map number 1. With 2 minutes and 24 seconds, Wasian was able to go ahead, as Kes was alluding to beforehand, completely negate that scoreline across the board. So for the University of New Mexico, you look to Roque to maybe have a better game in map number 2, and as the series progresses forward, but it was a big reason, at least early on inside of the game, that maybe could have allowed University of New Mexico to get out to a bit bigger of a lead, specifically when you start out at 1-13. So it's like, it's you were down by 15, but basically tied through the first set of rotations, and then you couldn't get anything going after the fact, and then your teammates just fall off the face of the earth. You can't do anything to help out your teammates, and you just lose map number 1 in that way. 70-point win there for the side of Colonel Esports leads us to map number 2. We won't be going far. We'll be back on Tuscan for the S&D, but Cash, just overall thoughts and collections of map number 1 and how that might influence map 2.
Yeah, for Colonel Esports, you come out, you do what we had expected them to do in map number 1, which is take a win in a fairly dominant fashion, like you had said, by 70 points. So you go back to Tuscan for map number 2, and the same thing. Play fundamental, play sound, and take care of business. Colonel State was winning rotations. They were getting breaks where they hadn't gotten rotations. I expect nothing different in the search and destroy. Fundamental, objective gameplay, trade effectively in there on the mid-map. That's so critical in Tuscan on search. So for Colonel Esports, keep it fundamental, keep it simple. The University of Mexico, you have to go big in map number 2 to respond. You have the ability to, you just need a couple more players to kind of step up for that squad to get it done. But for Nickel State, you're in the driver's seat for the time being.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said that better myself, but I mean, for the Lobos, it's not a great performance in map number 1, but there is much to improve upon that. But kind of the topic that we talked about beforehand was that in both of these teams, their best game modes was that map number 1 for a hard point, and then moving forward, really the rest of the series does not get easier for the Lobos whatsoever against the Colonel Esports roster that looks very good and almost tantalizing in a few ways throughout the majority of the season. So I mean, from Cash, what we've seen throughout the entirety of the CCL season from Colonel Esports has been great, and especially when their destiny is in their hands right now, and they need a win to stay alive here inside of the playoffs, and basically stay in the playoffs with a win and move on to the actual bracket play. Do you think there's more to play for here for Colonel than the University of New Mexico, seeming how they could still have that matchup against Oregon later on?
I do feel so, and you can tell the way Colonel State has been playing this year, right? It's a chip on their shoulder at times where it hasn't felt overconfident, but they believe in their ability, right? And to win games like this, you have to be your number 1. You have to be your number 1 fan. You have to be willing to believe in your squad and the work you've put in all season to get you to this point. So for Colonel Esports, yeah, you could absolutely make the argument that they are playing for a bit more here and looking to make a deep playoff run. Like you said, keep their destiny in their own hands. So of course, for New Mexico, you want to win, you want to stay live, but having Oregon to play after this series, win or lose, definitely something that you're not excited about, but you've got a lot of COD left here to focus on. So for Nickel State, they're playing with some heart on their sleeve right now, and they look to go up 2-0 after the search and destroy, but we've got at least 6 rounds ahead of us here as we open things up on offense for New Mexico.
Oh, beautiful snipe there from Hunter to open things up over the top. 4-3 already. It was 5 seconds that had ticked off the round before the first one had come through, and with Wasian getting that second kill already in the round, this just makes it so difficult for the University of New Mexico and the Lobos to make their presence felt on the map. If I'm Maddie here, I would have just honestly run off the building right there out of P5 and just given the first round there to the side of Colonel Esports, because that was a completely flawless round, but a phenomenal wipe across the board.
Great aggression out of Colonel State there early on. I mean, Dreco was pushed up vines. Not that it mattered. Like you said, they were finding the kills in and around the other parts of the map. If I'm Maddie, yeah, I'm a little tilted. 15 seconds go by and all your teammates are gone. But hey, no big deal. Back to the drawing board. And on defense as well, going to try to find a way to make a stand. Again, just feels eerily similar to our last series where New Mexico, if they can make a stand, they can find life in this series. And well, for Miami last series, that amounted to a win. It doesn't take much. It just takes kills and winning at the right time for New Mexico. But the way Colonel Esports are slaying out and trading out has been a bit too much here to kick things off. It is a 2v1 situation favoring New Mexico. Bomb is down over at the A side as these New Mexico players look to try to group up and play for this trade out retake. But C-Mac Gonna try to make a play, and someone who's been in the clutch situation before and definitely won these.
C-Mac saw the player in top church, immediately dip back around to the left side. Now has bomb in hand, can push this over towards A, or make a flank all the way back around through the spawn side of B. At least right now. The University of New Mexico didn't know exactly where that player was, but they turn around with the perfect timing, get some great shots to the back side of things, and does not allow C-Mac to go ahead and get a free kill towards the top of church there. So, and we tied round back and forth, 1-1 apiece. Cash, one of the things at least that I saw in that round was just a general aggression on the defensive side that I quite liked out of the University of New Mexico.
Yeah, it's something that I don't think Colonel Esports were exactly expecting. Whenever you are the better team, it just feels like there's this kind of vibrant energy that, like, you're the one in control of the tempo, you're the one in control of the pace. If New Mexico can flash them different looks and start to make them kind of second guess their play calls, that could definitely work out in their favor. So I agree with you. I do like that play out of New Mexico, just to kind of switch things up and try to take control of tempo. But here in round number 3, first bloods get traded, but look, it's Dreco once again already pushed up binds. These players for New Mexico find themselves penned in P5 in the mid-map area, and without much to go, without any places to go.
2 Lobos left versus the Colonel Esports roster. Roque making his way up over towards the platform side. There's nobody here from the Colonel Esports, but the Lobos don't know that. Dahmers, though, through the middle, is going to be able to find one from the top of church to make it a 1 versus 2 here. Draco this time going to be the one for the Colonel Esports roster that's going to have to clutch up, and as he rotates all the way across to the B side of the map, he doesn't realize that the Lobos have gone ahead and found their way back over towards A, so the bomb should go down here, put a restriction on time yet again, but Draco has the availability to clutch up it here in a 1 versus 2 still.
Bomb finally going down, and that information will be given to Draco here. Depending on how this post-plant setup comes in for the Lobos, could isolate 2 1v1s if he moves quickly. Rocky in a position to try and get intel, but that's not going to happen. Draco going to try to rip the head off of the Lobo player deep down this A side, but unable to. Mexico, they can't win 2 straight here. Take an offense nonetheless.
Shots there by Dahmers to go ahead and clutch that round up. It was a 2 versus 1, so they should have won that anyways, and they played themselves in a great position to play for those eventual trades over towards the field side. So now with the 2-1 lead and 2 quick rounds straight, Dahmers, who's on 4 in a row, will look to continue that streak going forward. On the offense, what has Colonel Esports decided to do maybe a bit different here inside of this round after they were shut down the last time through by the Lobos? Draco's going to have the bomb in hand. A couple of nades and stuns over the top are going to be good to weaken the player up. However, it is going to be Dahmers who not only walks away with a kill, helps out with the rest of his team, and now he's going to still be alive here, but it's going to be very difficult in a 3 versus 2.
Complete site clearance for Colonel State if they want it, or Colonel Esports if they want it, but they don't. They are opting to wrap to the back and maybe hunt a couple of these kills and try to get the bomb down B, but Maddie with a ton of information. I maybe thought, but that's not going to be the case. Hunter is about to get eyes on him. Call out that he's playing through alley, but Dahmers is finding huge kills and around the site. A 2v1 situation, hoping these players do play together, because Dahmer's on 5. This kill is a must get if you want to wipe him off the board. Not only that, but he could get full streaks if he's able to clutch up this round.
I thought he saw him out of his peripherals there through the backside of spawns, but as Dahmers has now made his way up the map, he looks to the back. Hunter will be able to shut down Dahmers, and streaks will go out the window with that. So as Colonel Esports will take their second round here in the S&D, we're tied back at 2 apiece after 4, and now we will go back to the offensive side here for the side of the Lobos to see what they will do over either towards that A or B site.
Good response coming in, drawn at 2-2. So many times in playoff situations, it just feels like S&D is the most tightly played mode. Several handshake rounds going back and forth, teams trying to adapt and improvise as well in and around what the opponent is giving them. And for New Mexico, it's back to the drawing board on offense. A couple players opt to go towards B. Wajan will have his handful here in a moment if they look to push through this lane, but little mid-map stagnant play, trying to play for intel, and well, Maddie, he's going to be caught out here, bomb down mid-map.
C-Mac with the first blood will open the window. With that trade coming through onto Draco from Solar, New Mexico is going to be able to sit a little bit more pretty. Colonel playing passive on the defensive side, just waiting for the players of the Lobos to come to them. It'll be very, very easy to get a few reads across the map so long as they don't throw a few shoulders and catch themselves off guard.
And for Nickel State, you can play passively. You can just hold L triggers and hear them gather the bomb and play accordingly. They have to make the play. Hunter is able to collect 1 kill on the top side of the map. Now these two players are going to have to work through fire and mid-map to try to get this bomb done. A-Rocket is able to spot one, a big kill there, bringing it back to a 2v2, but Weijian on the trade. An oh-so critical kill as now this bomb wraps back to B, and even if they don't look to go over and check this, it still should be around when for Colonel stated they've played this passively enough. Just can't give dominance around. He's been in a 1v2 situation once before. Wasn't able to clutch it up there, but can he do it again?
No.
That.
Okay.
Oof.
Okay.
Gonna be no. I thought for a moment. I was scared for a moment.
We can rest easy, let out a deep breath, and a little thumbs up from his teammate there as he defuses that bomb is going to be good enough for a 3-2 advantage. So what was very close there and almost was an immediate turn on completely goes in the way of Colonel State, as Weijian is able to secure himself the kill in the round at Valls.
Yeah, good one for Nickel State to win. Like you said, got a little scary there for a second, but we do get a lobby crash come in, so we'll be awaiting the results of that. The S&D starting to heat up there. No crazy plays being made, no wild clutch ups after, what was that, 5 or 6 rounds. Just fundamental sound S&D coming in, effective trading, and teams really trying to get the work done in the early round. But we'll wait to see what results we get after this. I mean, from Nickel State, though, they're coming out, and though it's been handshakes back and forth, I think they still look like the better team in the search.
Yeah, I do as well, but we'll have to wait and see the result of that S&D overall. It was the observer that unfortunately did get knocked out of that lobby, so it is still being played in the background, so we'll be able to update you with the score and everything that follows with that search and destroy when we come back. But in the meantime, while we figure everything out, we'll send things to a quick break. My name is Cormiel, with me Cash. We'll be back for the CCL playoffs. Well, as you'll see at the top of the screen, and I'm sure you don't need me to tell you this, but after map number 1 went in the way of Colonel Esports, the Tuscan Search and Destroy did end up going down to the wire, a round 11 win that allowed the Lobos to get back into the series and tie things up at 1 apiece. So now we go to a Tuscan control for map number 3, and we're guaranteed at least a map number 4 on Bacage Hardpoint to go ahead and potentially end that series. But right now, we have to talk about map number 3 for the swing mode to see who will find themselves with the advantage in this series once again.
Yeah, for Colonel Esports before, we had bowed out of that game. They looked to be in the driver's seat, though it was handshaking rounds back and forth to kick things off. Obviously going down to around 11. Interested to know what went wrong for them there to force that situation. But for New Mexico, you need to come out after losing 70, 80 points in map number 1 and clutch up to take a map to keep alive in this series. They do just that. Now we go to a control. But as you had alluded to before, even going into map number 2, the road doesn't get easier for you if you are New Mexico. You have to continue to win out the rest of the series. Of course, to win it, you have a map you can lose here and there. But for Colonel State, you don't want to give them any kind of breathing room to get back into this series. You've done the hard part for New Mexico. Can you replicate that just a couple more times to give yourself a series win here? Or for Colonel Esports, where I expect them to respond and a respawn once again, can you close it out here and not send it to a game number 5? So many questions, so many answers yet to come, but that's kind of what I'm looking at here, given what we've seen.
I mean, you kind of said it best earlier on. Inside of that last series, there was a team that won the hard point handedly and was able to go up with a 1-0 lead. We thought, okay, it's going to be over in 3 games. The hard point wasn't too terribly close inside of this series, but at least University of New Mexico had some gumption and it showed something throughout that first map. But all I guess it takes is a Rocket performance to not go 1-13 the first 5 hard points to allow your team to be not only viable but even fight for positioning. For Colonel Esports, though, now the kind of dial leans back in your direction. Do you choke 2 maps in a row? Do you allow New Mexico to be at match point or series point after a map number 3 control? You'd certainly hope not if you are a fan of the Colonel State roster, but at the same time, the University of New Mexico, they're not the best control team, but they ain't the worst.
No, there have definitely been worse, and there have definitely been better. And again, you get into a postseason situation where anything can happen. What have they been playing like leading up to this, and how well have their comms been not only within the game, but just how's their team chem been going into playoffs, right? It's just more than what you see on the map, not only on intangibles and stat lines that you do get to kind of witness, but how's the team gelling and how are they feeling going into this for New Mexico? A big map number 2 win, and if I'm the IGL, right, I'm riding on that momentum. Like, hey, we're still very much in this series. We've got a lot of work to do, but there's so many facets to playing in a team sport that go beyond the score lines and the stat lines that more than Call of Duty, how are these players as teammates bringing themselves together to try to get themselves a series win here? And as we go to Tuscan, like you said, not the best team, not the worst team, but hey, anything can happen, and you got to do just enough to get the win, to get it done. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
1-1 tied series. The Lobos take the search and destroy to force a map number 4 at the very, very least inside of the series. Control here, though. Offensive team going to go the way of Colonel Esports on the left side. University of New Mexico on the right. You already see Draco making a crazy, crazy aggressive flank through the backside. Now all the way through field into Church. You go to the top of Church as well. That's 3 in a row there for Draco to start out the control. And, of course, give Colonel Esports those first 2 ticks of progress uncontested at that A site.
Draco loves to get aggressive and respawns, and when he's doing that, especially early on, well, that's something you'll take every day of the week if you're Nickel State. That gives an open lane to get 2 people on to B already, and just needing 1 tick at A, you expect to get a little bit of work done here at B. A tick, if you can, would be great, but if not, oh well, you'll hang your hat up and go back to A, and get 2 minutes left on the clock, but gunfight does get lost over on Platte for New Mexico. You hang on for the time being, and Maddie on a 4 streak, holding things down over here on the bottom side of the map.
2-4 streaks for the Lobos as they hold on the defensive side. Was a great opening break for Colonel Esports, but ever since that point, it's really been all the side of the University of New Mexico. Finally, though, C-Mac and Draco will find 2 quick kills pushed up on that north side of the map. You'll get an extra minute on the clock to work, and now it's once again a tie game at 21 apiece in the life count, where the side of University of New Mexico is a bit pushed up the map, but they also have secured themselves inside of their spawns.
Players for Colonel Esports trying to make magic happen in P4 and through the back, but that will not be the case as players fall around. Then it's really going to be Wajan left up in radio as the last player pushed up for this Nickel State roster, waiting for reinforcements to come in, anyone to find a pick to open things up as the rest of the team look to come through the north portion of the map. But for New Mexico, you find shape and you find form once again on defense, and hold on for the time being. Lives nearly even, you are up 1, and no tick of progress at B with 60 seconds left. This is a great spot to be in on defense for New Mexico.
3-1 trade. Waging the last one here towards the site for the Colonel Esports roster. We'll be able to cut down the first player in towards radio. You got to be careful of New Mexico putting a body in the middle of the map, but you do have that south side secured right now. So you're just trying to play the numbers advantage here. Hunter, the first one out that doorway, and the gunfight challenge to Dahmer. We'll swap the second one in towards radio, but with the players in the top of the church, Roque will tag for the last few players. And with 40 seconds left, you have 1 more good attempt towards this point. 16-10 in the lives remaining, and everybody from the Lobos roster now making their way up the map. Dahmer's could have himself a phenomenal flank here as he goes to the middle of the map. Wajan will be the first one spotted out. Hunter will be there as well. You pick your gunfights wisely. C-Mac will fall. Wajan there as well. How about a challenge there from Dahmers around the right side? Ding dong, he's at the front door. You might want to turn him away before he wipes you across the map.
A great defensive hold coming in from New Mexico behind the effort of Dahmers in the mid-map to just go huge for the squad. All red kill feed puts them up 12 lives to close out this first defensive round. New Mexico, where they've needed to make a stand and prove themselves in this series, they've continuously done that. They go up 1-0 in the control.
Well, that was fun. That was a fun round of defense there from New Mexico. Riding that momentum from the S&D win.
You love to see it. I mean, for New Mexico, this is a wonderful opening.
Beautiful play there towards the end of the round from Dahmers to secure that flank and not allow another push opportunity from Colonel Esports on the offensive side of things, but it was the slaying that carried the Lobos throughout that first round. We'll see on the defensive side what Colonel Esports has in store for this Lobos roster, but as Hunter challenges around that corner, it's already a stack on that A site in that first bit of progress going towards A, and of course on that offensive side, you're still trying to win these gunfights. The trade back and forth, at least Draco at that point can go ahead and delete this time progressed, and now it's on the respawn block once again for the Lobos.
And where Colonel Esports have pressure around the map is just forcing New Mexico to kind of go through 1 lane for this A side. Of course, you expect that off of the first couple opening breaks in a control, but they are controlling this mid-map very well, and pinning these players to this one top lane of the map and forcing them to go for A, but keeping the pressure on. Pouring the pressure on A definitely helps to not only eat up that time, but also just give your teammates time to work around the map and get in different positionings. So for Colonel Esports, trying to have a more solid defensive standout than New Mexico, which will be hard to do. This A site looks all but guaranteed, and unfortunately for Colonel Esports, you weren't able to get any progress at B the last go around, so their work's cut up for them as well. They are up 5 lives as we look to make this transition over to B once this site gets secured, but as long as Colonel Esports players are up, man, they're not letting it happen.
Cheers to that defensive hold there from Colonel Esports. They now start to make their way into P5, try to push out the spawn side, but they're influencing the spawns right now in a major way because Wasion is just sitting in the corner of the middle map inside of L by A, making sure they can't progress back over towards that A site. While the gunfights are still being won through the front of the hill, Hunter is here at the platform side. A body will fall down the wall. Those are so cute. It's little things like that that keep me in love with Call of Duty casting because without it, I'd lose my sanity.
Cute little things for Corn that just get him through the night, and
Give me a little chuckle.
For me, it's this wonderful defense coming in from Colonel Esports. I mean, they haven't gotten A, and sure, they're about to get to take a progress at B, but if you can get one more wipe, I mean, with 20 seconds left, there's not going to be time to do much else. This is a very clean 2-stack coming in on this B site. Colonel Esports going to have to respect it and give it another chow, as very quickly progress was going up, but they respond accordingly, and now can't step off this A point at this point in time, and being down 8 lives, I'm going to guess this comes down to that first, but for Colonel Esports, it's been a very aggressive hold, and it's paid off for him.
I mean, everything was going great for Colonel at first, and then all of a sudden, you know, you let a couple players slip through the knot, get over towards that B site, and then you let A get completely captured. So sure, it's 5-10 still. There's a 5-life difference, but you know, you win the slaying numbers here if you're the Lobos, and that turns around into a round that's easily winnable over towards that B site. Tons of time to work with. A minute left here. A couple of solid pushes, maybe up the front, and as Roque finds the first one there on the Draco, it's going to even things out just a bit more as they can start making their way up the map in a slow-paced manner.
Trying to find a pick here, but C-Mac with a huge spin goes a little crazy there and is unable to connect on the second, but is able to relay that, hey, this hit's coming through P5, be ready for it. Player 7 and Roque maybe going to get through Church or top catwalk and play spoiler on a pinch play, but for the time being, Colonel Esports are locked in and good to go, but it's those 3 lives that are causing a problem. They would have to slay out here and go big. Not impossible by any stretch, being that it's 3-7, but definitely need to be patient and work the picks, and, well, the time's not going to help you in that regard.
Slow push up the map. Win there by Maddie onto C-Mac. Hunter over the top. Shots are going to be there, but Maddie turns around with a pistol. 3 versus 4. You're on the point. Wazen's going to be able to win the first one there. Tries to go for the second. 1 versus 2 there on the point. Can't come away with it. But what was a desperate attempt there towards the end of the round almost allowed them to clutch up what would have been a 3 versus 8 towards the end of that control. Fortunately enough, though, it's the side of Colonel Esports that went on the defensive side that keep things a bit close. However, Cash, the big storyline we have to talk about there at the end was the fact that they were able to get not just 3 ticks at A, but 2 ticks at B for a total of 5 ticks on their first offense.
That is going to spell huge, as I was imagining this control would look to go the distance. Colonel Esports have to respond with just as big of an offensive round, and what you look at that is going to be a 4 hit towards B just to get cheeky and try to get some early time here. So Maddie going to have his hand full. Can he replicate what Pandas did earlier? That's going to be 1, that's going to be maybe 2, but the players come through and split his attention. Now Pinch coming in and players from P5 in response from New Mexico, but as the stack comes in, it's already 1 tick early.
That was a much better push there from this Colonel Esports roster down the staircase, though. Rocky for the challenge isn't going to be able to take the gunfight to Wasion. 2 ticks of progress already over towards this B site. Solar trying to come down the ramp is going to be able to win a one-on-one gunfight with the hip-fire shots out of the automaton. And now the push from the offensive side will be going back over towards this A site. Hunter at the top will cut down 1 at a Church. Really, right now, all you're trying to do is take as many lives off the board as humanly possible from the Lobos roster, and Hunter will actually get beat down in towards the bottom of the Church. That's not very holy.
Maddie sniffed out on the flank, but player 7 and Roque still alive at U, causing problems. You would expect Colonel Esports to be able to get this A side at some point here, but they're going to opt to get 1 more tick at B. That is all they need, and if player 1 and Hunter can win this gunfight, which he does, that could afford time for teammates to get up and make 1 more play here. Getting this kill and getting the stack on here should allow for this B point to be captured, and would you look at that, they get the hard job done first. We said they needed to open up with a big offensive round in response to the 5 ticks of progression New Mexico got. They captured the B site first, and with a minute 45 left, it's still down 4 lives. it is something very possible for them to capture all of the points this round and go back up again in ticks.
Still difficult to break A when you grab that B site first, but 2 quick kills and an 8 over the top is going to allow them to get onto site. It's so difficult to break back over towards A once you give it up, and as you trade another kill on the point, it's already 2 ticks. Draco going to be able to spot out 1, snaps over towards the second. That's going to be everybody down on the Lobos roster. Tries to go to the back of the church, but as Dahmer gets the kill there, nobody's going to be able to push up the map just yet. It's a beautiful stack on the point, and a few more kills over the top will give Colonel Esports another round here, but this time on an offensive try. 2-1 lead now at match point, going back to defense.
Anything you can do, I can do better has been Colonel State's motto in this control. Like you said, they find themselves going back on a defense. All you have to do is close it out here, and you find yourselves up 2-1 in the series going into another hard point where you found a lot of success earlier. Granted, it's on Pakaj, and it plays a little bit scrappier than a Tuscan hard point would, but a position you want to be in for Nickel State for have the best potential to close out this series. Hunter on a 3 streak as well, but the very solid stat line through and through from all the 4 players. Again, not that anyone boasting positive 2.0 KDs or anything, but everyone on the board and playing well. Can you lock it down here on defense and do what you need? I'd like to see them not give up A for free and get some chows on it, but with early kills coming in for New Mexico, that's already a tick of progression.
What can Draco do here? Gonna be able to find the first. Draco snaps to the second. The last one will fall to the hands of Asian as well. So 2 ticks of progress on A, but you still have player number 6 and Maddie all the way over towards that B zone. So you're just trying to find that first tick, and you actually will be able to get it right before everybody on the Colonel Esports roster goes ahead and doubles back over towards this point. You actually slipped the knot and allowed yourself to escape up and towards the platform. Wasting a little bit of time off of that clock, sure, but with 2 ticks of progress over towards A, you're trying to push back on over towards it, and you've already got 2 players there. You have to look to you, though. C-Max going to find the challenge out there. Draco will find the second. And now it's Rocky through the middle of the map, who will find C-Mac and a double onto Draco. They're almost down just for Asian, too. But a double back and forth with a 2-2 trade leaves 55 seconds on the clock and no completion on either zone.
Asian having it locked down here, buying just enough time for teammates to come in. Hunter with the beautiful chow in you to make this play still happen on defense. Second tick of progress over at A, 1 tick over at B, but for the time being, they have things locked down with 45 seconds left and up 4 lives. This is favoring Colonel Esports to take on defense. You got to find a few more kills if you're New Mexico and really focus on this A site. For Nickel State, you've got to be expecting that given the time constraint and the amount of time they have left. But once again, C-Mac relaying information and finding kills in and around the spawn. Not watching the flank is New Mexico, and they will pay for it. They do get A, but being down 2 lives and only having 1:30 to work with, they get a few chances at this at best.
So many times Colonel Esports has been able to catch the Lobos off guard from behind. As they were over towards the A zone, it was great trigger discipline there from C-Mac that allowed him to at least find the first. Unfortunately, the player escapes through the middle of the map, and you weren't able to find 2, and maybe even the third after the fact. I do like this push, though, from the side of the University of New Mexico. They've gotten towards the bottom of the church and will try to force their way out and towards the backhand of spawn. Hunter wasn't able to get into the exact position he wanted to, but that might have worked into his favor as he gets great timing to snap onto the second. C-Mac's going to be close up for help. The pistol there from Hunter is going to go ahead and put a few extra shots into Solar just for extra good measure. Now you look over towards the right-hand side of things. You look for the challenge, and if Hunter would have won that, I think my pants would have been a little stoked.
That would have been a wild gunfight to win indeed. Unfortunately falls, but Draco having not only an impactful series tonight, but I know he's sitting at 21 and 25 here in the control, but how many times have we mentioned his name on a flank play or just making something force the heads of New Mexico players to turn around? His impact on the map goes beyond the stat line, and on this defensive round, needing 2 ticks and only 30 seconds left, New Mexico have to be miracle workers to pull this one off as they try to work through church and make a play happen to open up this B site. It is not going to happen for the time being. And as I say that, a couple kills in the back able to go their way. Colonel Esports, they got to turn around.
13 seconds left. New Mexico trying to get back over towards the point. Only 2 bodies here right now, but the kills have gone their way. C-Mac from the top trying to jump back down, but it's Draco who now is flying back around over from P5. Maddie, first gunfight, gonna go his way. 1-on-1 win. 10 seconds left. Jump down in towards the point. Draco is gonna be there, but Maddie hit again for another quick kill. Solar's gonna be in from the back, but Wasian will shut down every last hope that the side of the University of New Mexico wanted towards that point. It's a 1-on-1 at the hill that will take them into a 3-1 lead inside of this control, give them the map win, and of course find them with a 2-1 series lead and advantage going to Bocage for a map number 4 hardpoint where they can close this out and send New Mexico packing to an Oregon game.
For this Bacage hardpoint, I'm really excited for the side of Colonel Esports. I mean, they've been playing so quick and aggressively throughout this series that Bacage is just a breeding ground for that style of gameplay. Draco playing well and aggressive, loving to get up in the face and able to flip spawns. That's going to be exciting to see here, but as we have a look at these stats one last time, again, just solid numbers being put up. No one with crazy KDs or anything, but all 4 players putting up significant numbers, significant damage, and as well as non-traded kills, just playing their lives very well right now. We said for this current esports squad, all 4 players showing up is the difference maker here. Both duos in Draco Invasion and C-Mac and Hunter taking care of business so far.
Relatively close all the way across the board. Rocket struggles continue in the respawn, sure, but now when we go to a Bacage hardpoint here, Cash, really the only thing that's on the back of my mind is how badly do Colonel Esports want to close this series out, and how bad do New Mexico want to stay alive and not have to really rely on going up against Oregon to qualify for the next round of playoffs.
Absolutely, and we will very quickly find that out in this Bacage hardpoint. One that plays much scrappier than a traditional hardpoint map would, something that really pushes you to your limits because you have to be ready for gunfights. Every moment you come up off of spawn, you can't afford to have mental lapses or have a bad set of lives because it can just cost your team at some point. So who's going to come out and stay sharp and stay resilient? Again, for Colonel Esports, you're looking to try to close this one out and not extend it to a map number 5. For New Mexico, it backs against the wall, and yeah, you've really got to put up big numbers here to try and keep yourselves alive in this series. So questions that we're waiting to see answered, and I'm excited. But again, for Colonel Esports, given how they played map number 1 and they set themselves up to take this in a 3-1 fashion, going to be favoring them going into it. But we see New Mexico, they pulled it off in the map 2 S&D. Can they replicate that here being down?
You know, you would hope so at a certain extent, but I mean, just going back over what we kind of talked about beforehand, S&D was kind of the best mode for both of these teams. Same way like Hardpoint was the best mode in a sense for both of these teams. You know, those were the 2 modes that we looked at to be the closest overall. I think if there's an opportunity for New Mexico to take a Hardpoint off of Colonel Esports, I think it does bode well for a Bacage Hardpoint, simply because of how closely the map can be contested and how different it is from a game-to-game basis and how hot one team can be from one map to another. Now, the one thing that does concern me a bit, though, is the fact for Colonel Esports, you know, you did have that 14-7 record in Search and Destroy in the regular season. If you can't close it out here inside of the hardpoint, I'm not too concerned, but again, a team with a back against the wall, as you mentioned beforehand, and someone who has nothing to lose is the scariest roster. And if New Mexico can not only do it once where they were able to be down a 1-0 deficit and then tie things up at 1-1, but now be able to do it twice, going to 2-2, and then being in that elimination match for map number 5, that's when I get a little nervous for Colonel Esports.
Yeah, I think this is a must-win map for them. You don't want to put this to a game number 5 because you come in, you're saying at 14-7 in the S&D. You really throw all of those stats out the window when you just get in a matchup because New Mexico obviously pushed you the distance and could take map number 2. Who's to say they can't do it again? So you don't want to take any of these next moments lightly in this Bacage hardpoint. You want to make sure that you're playing as hard as you have been in the respawns. And for New Mexico, again, as we say throughout different matchups and playoffs, but it really is just so true. A team with nothing to lose and just going out and playing a little bit more relaxed can definitely pay dividends. New Mexico, they have the potential to take this Bacage. It works out for them. I know we're saying, you know, Bacage hardpoint for Colonel Esports is one they could close it out because it plays fast in your face. On the flip side, for New Mexico, it could favor them because you play it scrappier. You aren't punished as harshly if you aren't winning rotations. You just have to be ready for those gunfights and high engagements. New Mexico has shown that they are able to hang with that. Can they string enough of it together to pull off a map win? That's what we'll find out. But Bacage, if you're going to a map 4 hardpoint map where, well, it's going to play scrappier and not punish you as much on rotations, this is one I'd want to be in for New Mexico.
Yeah, I also agree with that in a lot of the sense as well. I do think, though, that, you know, sure, you might not get punished as much here on Bacage. I think that allows Colonel Esports to take advantage of New Mexico just a bit more, too, because if, you know, you go into a mindset of a game saying, okay, well, we don't really need to worry that much about not rotating, and we can play this a bit more haphazardly, you can fall yourselves into a trap and say, okay, well, if they're not going to do that, how about we just cut them off at every angle, and then you can almost kind of predict the moves that they're going to be making on the map. That makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely, you definitely don't want it to fall into a cycle of, well, yeah, let's just try and take gunfights. So it's a balance you have to strike, and whoever can walk that line the best is a team that can win well. Of course, nothing's wrong with winning rotations, but again, we've seen New Mexico win rotations in map number 1. You've got to have gunfights that go hand in hand with that. I mean, this is a map where you can see upwards of 80 engagements in some situations, so just so high paced, and one that, you know, some people love it or hate it for a hard point map, but it's one that I enjoy because it really shows who's dialed in and focused for this entirety of this map. You can't afford to have many lapses and decisions on Bocage because it plays so quickly, and before you know it, you're in another gunfight, rotating to another hill. It's one that really shows, talked about a couple times tonight, but just the mental fortitude, the focus of teams here in playoff situations.
Gonna have to be a good map here from the University of New Mexico if they want to take down Colonel Esports here inside of map number 4, Bocage Hardpoint. Mixy is ever. It's one of those maps to where you can thrive in the chaos, take yourselves to a good situation in an elimination match, but at the same time, if you live by the chaos, you can also die by the chaos. And for Colonel Esports, you're looking to replicate what you had inside of map number 1 to carry you not all the way through inside of this best of 5 series, but of course, give yourselves that confidence in being able to qualify for the next portion of playoffs and getting into the bracket play for the West. We're still in playoff groups here inside of the CCL. These next few matches over today and tomorrow are going to decide who will make it to the next stage of the playoffs. Right now, as we said beforehand, though, Colonel Esports, they control their destiny. A win here would be a great thing for them and their season. First blood off the board. Mac and Maddie going to go trading back and forth. 10 seconds off the game clock and 15 off the hill.
It's going to be player 4 for Colonel Esports and C-Mac already rotating through River and locking down P2 spawns as we look ahead. So not only are they securing a bit of P1 time, which is always nice off this opening break, this is definitely one of the scrappiest P1s in all of Vanguard. So you're getting a bit of time and you also lock down spawns. A wonderful way to open up for Colonel Esports is you're just trying to keep them off of it and really retain these left-hand side spawns, looking ahead towards P2, but job well done for them. New Mexico, even if they're able to get the rest of this time for P1, as long as you hold on to these spawns, you're sitting well.
Routes all the way in the back line. Hunter, shots are going to be there. Backs off for the time being. All the way in towards 10, though. Rocket is going to be there, trying to push out the back line. White arrows all around the hill, but the spawns are going to be there and in for the University of New Mexico. Rocky going to be able to find the first, now the second there onto Draco. We'll play on the contest spot here behind the barrel. Turns back around to Wagen, who is there, but a pinstripe kill feed will give the side of Colonel Esports a 20-12 advantage here, at least at the very beginning. Colonel Esports just trying to win the majority of the gunfights. It's been good slaying here thus far for the side of Colonel Esports.
Given how quickly spawns were flipped out, a win for New Mexico here over at P2. If they can get the rest of this time, even better, but they've kept it close and scrappy through the first 2 hills and allowing themselves the opportunity to get warm. I mean, 3 players already at 5 kills, Solar not far behind at 4. So this is the way New Mexico needed to start if they wanted to have a chance at Bocage. Any leader points that they can get, they need to capitalize on. So often we see teams on, especially on Bocage, chalk up 10 to 15 seconds of scrap time just to try to fight for rotation, but this is a map where you really have to factor in that game clock more than anything. Every second begins to matter. New Mexico playing like that to kick things off here. Colonel Esports, they're going to chalk it up and be ready for P3, but on rotation, New Mexico, they're trying to hit to the north portion of the map.
You see Draco winning a gunfight off screen towards that north portion of the map. C-Mac's going to be there to help up there too. So as Domers now makes his way through to the backside spawns, you're trying to influence them here any way that you can. And as Domers was able to slip on through, Draco finally is there for the trade, but it's enough to keep them out of the hill for the time being and allow the Lobos to now push in through the front. Contest going to be there. Hunter going to toss a nade around the right side corner, force the player to back off into the kitchen. And as Maddie's praised away from the point, Hunter there from the front with the automaton will find one. Player up top will fall, and everybody now from the side of the University of New Mexico will be back to the respawn block, trying to right back into the front yet again.
At the very least, they're keeping Colonel Esports from getting clean amounts of time and finding themselves diving in the hill as well, but it's really just been the Bocage blunder as we've seen thus far, a nearly tied game as we work our way over to P4. New Mexico sure have the rotation for the time being, but with just a few quick strides, Colonel Esports can win a couple gunfights and find P4 going their way. That is not the case. As 3 players fall for the side of Colonel Esports and have to make the jog once again across the map, but opening up the first 10 seconds of time will be New Mexico here, again playing well, starting off hot, keeping themselves in a prime position to take and extend the lead. Colonel Esports just trying to find footing, Wagen off to a slightly slower start than you would like to see, but really, Hunter and C-Mac the ones trying to do it all here on the map to start.
Like the slow push there from Colonel Esports to break from the outside. He gave them about the first 10 to 15 seconds of time uncontested, but that allowed them to get a nice clean break, influence the spawn in the way that they wanted to, and now the University of New Mexico is going to have to fight from the outside in yet again. P5 going to be where we set up next in about another 15 seconds or so, and as you see those white arrows start to make the rotation down to the south side of the map, Rocky's actually going to get a blessed spawn down towards that bottom left of the mini-map, and of course now he will be able to secure himself at least a little bit of a portion of time back over by P5.
At least distract these players long enough to give his teammates an easier transition over, and now a pinch going to develop from tower and gate. Spawns a little bit everywhere for Colonel Esports. They're trying to make sense of the madness. Like you said, you live or die by this chaos, and right now at New Mexico, they have held a lead, albeit it's only, 8 points at this point, but it's still something nonetheless that they're going to take for granted as they look to collapse on this P5 and get more time. For Colonel Esports, it's been a bit discombobulated. We said that they don't give you many looks of looking ununiformed in a series. This is one where New Mexico is capitalizing on just that. It's been very even, very uniform pushes coming in from Colonel Esports. That has not been the case here for Bakaj. Like you said, you don't want to fall into the lull of, can we win these gunfights and not have to rotate? Because when the gunfights don't go your way, well, now you need to start winning rotation. And New Mexico, I mean, they're in the driver's seat for the time being.
Well, at least for Rocket, you don't start 1 and 13 here in map number 4 like you did in the first hard point. 2 seconds of scrap time to Colonel Esports with a great consolation prize, but now you're back in the middle of the map and being able to pop initial for P1. It's going to be scrappy here to start things off. However, with the gunfights going their way, they're at least able to get that first 10 seconds of time relatively uncontested. Maddie from the top going to try and jump down in towards the point, going to spot Wasian on out one to versus one at the top of the barn. Unfortunately, it's a swap to the pistol where Hunter's able to take that gunfight in the way of Automaton. Rocket in the middle for 2, going to look in towards that hut side, but Draco will be there, and now it's going to be a swarming side of Colonel Esports on the left side of the map. Once again, though, it says red arrows, and of course the red in the kill feed. That gives the University of New Mexico the map presence, positioning in P1.
All 4 players for the Lobos playing with heads on a swivel, where they think they haven't seen someone in a second. They're going to check their back and check their lanes, just everything covered for them, really pushing themselves to try and get to a map number 5. You said, do they have the heart and the grit to come out and do it? The answer to that, at least through this first set of rotations, is yes. And as we have our eyes forward towards P2, it's going to once again be another scrappy battle, but Colonel Esports, they're here and going to hold it from the front. With this hit coming in from River, it's going to be a 4-man from the Lobos.
Wasian looking ahead, bottom of the barn, tries to find the one-on-one gunfight, but it's just everything but white in the kill feed right now. The University of New Mexico, despite only having about a 20-second lead, have been able to win the majority of the gunfights here through the mid-portion of the game, which has allowed them to at least keep the advantage and the pressure on Colonel Esports at every twist and turn here on Bakaj thus far. But as Hunter and C-Mac now will double back, rocking towards the top of the barn, will be able to find one with the MP40, and now the rest of the teammates going to be able to corral back around Rocket, and a great performance from him here thus far in this middle portion of the hard point. Still only a short lead here for the University of Mexico, but 20 seconds of scrap time might be uncontested if Colonel Esports decide to go ahead and fight for the make it P3.
And Solar boasting a 26 and 17 stat line while also having 46 seconds of hill time is the performance that we've wanted to see from more of these New Mexico players. And Solar also has had kind of like an unsung hero kind of night, putting up really good stat lines and really keeping this New Mexico squad in the fight. They get the rotation over to P3 after winning gunfights and bullying out the side of Colonel Esports, and now extending the lead out to 30 or more points. And on Bakaj, you don't usually see leads of this magnitude without a team being able to close it out. Of course, comebacks are always possible, and it's not by that much as Colonel Esports are able to get in. But for New Mexico, you have your win conditions set. I know we're, just over halfway through this map, but really, if you can go 30 for 30 on the rest of these hills, I mean, you're sitting just fine. We do have 2 minutes of time left on the clock, so we'll keep an eye on that as it goes. But if you can go 30 for 30, trade out and contest these hills, you're going to be sitting just fine as we look towards the end of this map.
30 points looking ahead. Wasian from the back lines is going to be able to find one. You look to the second in towards the point. That's 11 huge seconds for the University of Mexico. We know how big leads can be on this map, even when they seem so small in comparison. but with a minute and 58 seconds left in the game clock, that might have a factor later on in the game, dependent on how some of these holds here go for the Lobos. Backs against the wall, trying to force a map number 5. Player number 2 in an off-screen engagement will go ahead and find a kill there with the help of Hunter. Now with 2 kills going to White in the feed, it's a 3-2 trade that finally allows Colonel Esports to get in for some time. It's the first time we've seen them have some light and some success in the last few minutes.
But unfortunately, this time is not amounting to anything, as New Mexico are simply contesting from the front. Once again, a victory for them just to be able to play around the map presence and the pacing that they have put on Colonel Esports the entirety of this Bacage. They've come out electric and put the stunner on this team for the time being. Colonel Esports still with time in this map to respond, but it's got to be something a bit more substantial than what we've seen where they've been able to get in. It hasn't been significant, and they've been having it contested by New Mexico. So slower gunfights not going their way. They are winning rotation, but on the flip side, it's New Mexico actually winning on the break and able to get in early and get time. 20 points from eclipsing the 200-point mark is going to be New Mexico. Colonel State with about 50 seconds of time to draw this back to even, but for the time being, Lobos still doing very well. Solar now up to 35 kills.
15 seconds off of P5 here. Maddie out to the middle of the map. C-Max tries to go ahead and win the one-on-one. Maddie's actually going to get the perfect read on the player who's sitting outside by the black car and in the gate. However, with Maddie not being able to really find anything in the way of information at the moment, we'll finally be able to drop down into the hill, and with help of Dahmer over the top, he's going to be able to go ahead and snap onto Draco, and C-Max will also fall in an unfortunate tail at the same time. 36 and 22 from Hunter here leads us out of Colonel Esports, but it has been a lackluster game from the rest of the supporting cast that has put them down by 55 points and counting in New Mexico State. New Mexico with the advantage here early on inside of map number 4. They are going to, at least right now, secure that map number 5 going forward.
If they continue to close this out the way that they have been playing the entirety of this, yes, we could very much see a game 5 here on the table for us. Once again, Colonel Esports looking to get a lot of this P1 time. Split spawns coming in for New Mexico, but a big P1 hold here would be great. They need to lock down one of these money hills at some point. Great job from New Mexico just to be able to contest it for the majority of it. But so often we see this 3-for-1 kill feed, and Colonel Esports just haven't been able to respond in the slaying, like you said. Hunter at 39 and 23 having a great performance. Draco not too far behind, but really the supporting cast that we need to see from Colonel Esports for them to find success has not been ringing true. And for New Mexico on the opposite side, much stronger performances from a couple of duos there.
Starting to get this game back. White in the kill feed has gone their way here for a considerable amount of time. Hunter will fall, though, as Solar and Dahmer's pair for a couple of kills in the feed. Minute 9 left on the game clock. Have to push over towards P2 for these spawns now, but of course that time is going to be also crucial. Down by 30 in the rotation now, won by the University of New Mexico. Dahmer's on 4, and now you start to spawn a bit closer if you are Colonel Esports, but you do not have all that much time to get back across the map, simply due to the fact that 1, there's the game clock restriction, and 2, University of New Mexico, they only need 20 seconds to win map 1, or 4.
Now just trying to soak up the rest of this time, and for Colonel Esports, you find yourself throwing one-off lives at it. There goes one, and down goes another. They're able to get on and contest, but having just 11 points needed for New Mexico to win, it takes one more wipe, and we'll see ourselves in a game number 5 on Berlin. New Mexico, they started on fire, and they ended red hot as well. Really a hard-point performance that, again, kind of head-scratching and mind-boggling given how map 1 went, but hey, they come out and get it done. When you need to turn up in a series, they're finding themselves doing just that.
Back-to-back Game 5s here on the Bravo stream. 2 elimination matches that have gone the distance to the fullest extent inside of these best-of-5 series. And of course, that also joins Alpha in having another best-of-5 series going on there right now between LA Tech and Oklahoma Christian. That is one that you don't want to miss. So while we go ahead and, kind of set things up in the background, but also talk about this, you might as well go ahead and take a gander over at the Alpha stream and see what's going on inside of the Game 5, where Oklahoma Christian is up at 4-2. But while that goes on in the background, I guess that gives us time to kind of go over some of the statistics from that game. Again, it was a great map from Hunter there. Draco was kind of that only other player that was really having having any sort of momentum on the map or really a presence that was felt, but really Wasian and CMAC is where things fell off the face of the earth. It was great time for Wasian yet again, but it just needed to be bigger in the slaying department there overall. You look to the side of the University of New Mexico, Solar had a phenomenal game at 43 and 28, but really the tale is spoken within 3 different players on the University of New Mexico getting over 1 minute and 12 seconds, or rather 1 minute and 6 seconds in the hill, and being able to spread the wealth between one another.
Yeah, just a balanced approach from them to take this map number 4. They come out with aggression and they hold it for the entirety of the map because you have the luxury of being able to do that. And really, we hear it talked about anywhere from pros to amateur down to CCL recreation. You can get in something called a bocage blunder where you find yourself in a cycle of spawning, coming off spawn, and getting cut down. And it's really hard to break out of. Not many people, let alone teams, can do that. So for Colonel Esports, they tried at times, but New Mexico had their number at every turn. And so they forced a game number 5. Can they pay it off here by coming out with a win? You have to win back-to-back searches within the series to do it, but we had said for Colonel Esports, almost a must-win map number 4, because now tides are changing and starting to favor New Mexico. They won the first one the last go-around. Do Colonel Esports have enough in the tank to really mitigate this and win this one here?
University of Mexico tie things up in the series at 2 apiece. Colonel Esports trying to close things out here in a game number 5, but the Lobos also tried to do the exact same thing. We'll step aside for a moment. When we come back, we'll set up our game 5 and get to watch this series come to a firework ending. But in the meantime, go watch Alpha, because that's a game 5 going on there as well. We'll be back after a short break. Our second game 5 here of the night on the Bravo stream. We just saw the conclusion of another game 5 on the Alpha stream where Oklahoma Christian was able to take that series in a 3-2 win over LA Tech. Colonel Esports, they control their destiny. A win here basically locks them into playoffs, but New Mexico State, or rather New Mexico Esports on the other hand, well, if they lose this, then their fate is kind of left in their own decision. It's another elimination match. Either team, if they lose here, it's basically game over. There's a few stipulations to help them forward, but again, the key there is they would need help in order to move on. So we go to a map number 5 here on Berlin for what would seem like a never-ending series at this point, Cash. It's been a fun one thus far, though, through 4 games.
Yeah, it has been a really fun one. New Mexico was really exciting there to see them in map number 4 come out with aggression and then be able to maintain that throughout the entirety of the map. Now you go to Berlin where you stretch things out a bit and slow things down in a search and destroy. They boded well in that pacing change from map 1 Tuscan to map 2 Tuscan search and destroy. Yep. Can they replicate that again in a game 5 where, yeah, we see all the time search and destroys win championships. If you win, no one cares if you win the map 2 if you can't win the map number 5. So for this New Mexico squad, it's going to be in a 2-4-5 fashion, but they have all of the cards in their hands to get it done. Colonel Esports have to now find a way to respond here in game number 5.
I was kind of concerned with at least for the study UNM, just the fact of Colonel Esports' tenacity and respawn and how good it had been, and I didn't know if they were going to be able to combat that inside of map number 4, but they impressed me there, and the fact that of course that search and destroy went to a 6-5 margin beforehand we got to that round 11. Again, I think that allows New Mexico State to get a bit more mixy in that regard, but again I must remind you that we weren't able to catch the actual ending of that map number 2 earlier on, as we did lose our observer instead of that game. So this will be the first true and final test for both of these teams in an S&D. So, from the very limited amount of backstory and at least information that we had from watching these players instead of the search and destroy, we had 6 rounds that we were able to go through. Cash, do you remember anything specific? It doesn't have to be super specific. Do you remember anything that you liked out of either of these 2 teams in that S&D?
Yeah, so for Colonel Esports, I liked how they were able to get aggressive kind of through that mid-map and play around information where they knew when they wanted to get aggressive and challenge lanes. Draco was someone who was really taking advantage of flank opportunities, and for UNM, they were leaving that open. I'd like to see them make that adjustment here. One that maybe warrants flanks after a few picks have been made, but something to keep an eye on, and something that Draco, if can be activated, already wiped off the map here, is something to be keep an eye out for.
UNM, defensive side, over towards the B site. Solar at the top of fire will be able to spot out Hunter, but will not be able to connect for a kill. So it's still a 3 versus 4. 50 seconds left here in the round. As you start to make your way back over towards that A or the B bomb site, you're just trying to play for information, and you still have different players across the map. But CMAC actually is going to spot out Roque, so this could be big here, especially if you're able to go ahead and find this player. But a nade up to the top almost takes down CMAC, forces him to back off. So it was looking like a good, maybe even potential round-saving play for Colonel Esports. turns into a 1 versus 3.
And bomb down on the B side, so for Weijin, you're just gonna look to try to find a pick here and maybe get a couple players off the board, but I don't know that there's all that much time left to make a play in and around the bomb and the site. They're gonna hear this cue, and heads are gonna turn back towards B now. Players, oh, maybe thought they knew the bomb was down on B, but turns out he's gonna get the bomb down, so now just have to clutch up in a 1v3, and they have to get the defuse, but as the collapse comes in, as long as you play the trade, that should be the first round done and dusted. And an execution style. New Mexico, they take round number 1.
I was gonna say, like, you're already cooped up in a chicken hut there by planting the bomb on the B site, not being able to get back around. But the fact that they got in there and they just eliminated him like that, I don't know if that's gonna be bad juju come later on inside of the map.
Right.
But it's a
yeah.
great way to start things off in round number 1. Hopefully, you got a good chuckle on the team because you got to go do that 5 more times against a very good Colonel Esports roster that you were only able to take down in round 11 last time. So maybe you should have just went for the kill there and not made them a little bit upset, but. Of course, that's neither here nor there. I probably would have went for the elimination myself.
Feeling confident as ever, New Mexico take it on offense and look to run up this train A site. Bully these players out and get this bomb down. Just a couple players over here. Really one player in the site now as Hunter is going to work in as well to play with his duo and try to pick these players off and slow this attack here. Player 3 and Dreco once again in and around on the flank. Solar, I believe, has sniffed it out and is trying to hunt him down, but Dreco is someone to constantly keep an eye on. It just takes another defensive player out of the play. Unfortunately, you're falling in and around the A-bomb side as well.
2v4. Bomb hasn't gone down yet, so at least you have time in your favor in that regard. But as Weijin's now left alive in a 1 versus 4, sure, you've made yourself known on the flank here, but if Solar wins the 1-on-1 there, it's a flawless round number 2 there from the Lobos as they find themselves 2 quick rounds straight. Cash, this is looking very reminiscent of the good round, of course, that we saw inside of map number 2, but this is looking like a much more calculated effort out of the Lobos than any of the maps we've seen previous.
It definitely does, and it just kind of feels like the momentum has changed for Colonel Esports since the start of that Bacage. They haven't looked comfortable, and that's props to New Mexico for making them play in a style where they're constantly having to make adjustments, and it's not amounting to much, but for Colonel Esports, they haven't looked comfortable since map number 4 started. They don't look comfortable here in map number 5. If they can respond with a round win here, that would definitely aid them tremendously, but getting aggressive through this B side is going to help, and of course the nade over the top opening up from CMAC will shift things in your favor as well, but Colonel Esports just need to stay the course, do what they need to do to chip away at this. It's only a 2-round lead, but bomb down and having the first blood, that's always going to help you out.
Dominic wanted that challenge too. He was looking for Weijin all the way in the back, but unfortunately not being able to go ahead and connect on the headshots is going to make the side of the Lobos pay. CMAC all the way up in towards top 3rd will be enough to find the last kill off the board. So you get aggressive quickly. That first kill in the way of nade from CMAC is going to let you get onto that B bomb site. And of course, now that allows everybody to get the kills in the background and find your first round here inside of the search and destroy. So what was looking like a very hard and aggressive start there from the University of New Mexico quickly slows down. And finally, if you are Colonel Esports, you can settle into this S&D a bit more.
Can definitely relax now that you have a round on the board. Sometimes that's all it takes to kind of get things going your way. CMAC on a 3 streak doesn't hurt anything as well. You find yourselves now on defense. A good position to be in to draw this even at 2-2. You know, you got bullied out of this A site last time. Hopefully a couple more reinforcements ready. CMAC ready for the gunfight in and through windows. Finding the first blood and it not getting traded out. Spelling for a lot of success for Colonel Esports here early on, but Dahmers is able to draw things up at 3-3. Unfortunately, bomb is down at train, and well, you got to run out of your cover to go get it, and that's just something that Colonel Esports going to be ready for.
Weijin playing corner middle map. But while this is happening, you don't realize that Solar is making a flank all the way back around through the spawn side. As you wait for this to develop right now, all you're trying to do is get some information here, maybe grab that bomb, get out scot-free, and if you can get back over towards that B site, this is actually going to allow Solar to play this rotation back over toward that B bomb so perfectly, but you also have to wait for Weijin here, who's actually going to read that perfectly, get the information on the player over towards that B bomb site, now get everybody to rotate back. If nobody wraps all the way back around through the back spawn side, Solar is going to be completely useless, but that can then set up himself on another pinch play, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do here once the bomb goes down.
You should get information on at least one cross here, but as the bomb goes down, a 3v3 retake coming in, player 8 and Dahmer is still thinking someone could be in train, but Class is going to come in and around this B site, and no one, especially Solar, has not moved just yet. Trade's going even, but Rocket finding a huge one in the B-bomb site.
1 versus 2 here from Wagen. Tries to get long-range shots down to the back range site of the spawn side of the defensive team. As Wagen now pushes over towards the B-bomb site, he knows that somebody's inside of the site. He's just got to be able to win the one-on-one gunfight. Sun going to go around the corner. You're going to look back over towards it inside of the window, but you don't realize that the player's coming in through on the flank. Tries to turn back around, almost wins the one-on-one, and you maybe have a chance to find the second kill there as well. But for the third time here in the S&D, the Lobos will win a round, find themselves still with the advantage.
They just look a bit more composed for the moment. I mean, Solar at 4-2 is always nice, but the way they're moving around the map, it just seems decisive, where maybe in the first map and they're in the control, it looked like they were a little flustered at times, but they really settle into these S&Ds well. Of course, we didn't get to see all of it there in map number 2, but playing a lot more fluidly. And again, we said a team with nothing to lose is one of the scariest teams you could have to play. And of course, for Colonel Esports, Dreco sitting at 0-4 doesn't help us well. He's the route man, and he hasn't quite gotten paid just yet. You look to see him turn things around here in the second half of the map.
Over from behind. Oh, I thought maybe he wasn't going to be able to finish the kill there onto Hunter, but readjusts and is able to find the second one over onto the bomb site as well. So Dreco does get the bomb down, 2 versus 4. Colonel Esports trying to hold strong here in a disadvantage of the numbers, but now it's a 1 versus 4 here from Wagen. Doesn't realize that the player has gotten into the back of the site, but as you cut down Solars, now another fuse. Okay, shot to the back. You get number 3. You have to find this trade here if you're Maddie. You're going to turn around to the front door. Wagen will escape with 1 HP. The challenge is there, but Maddie will win the one-on-one. So what was looking like a desperate 1 versus 4 performance, Maddie will come out on top there towards the end, get the defuse, and give the Lobos their 4th round here on Berlin.
So close out of Wagen, and that could have just been a tide changer, but it isn't. And New Mexico go up 4-1 in game number 5. Personally, it's just a stunner being put on Colonel Esports at the moment. It's felt like they've been out of the series since map number 4. They just haven't been able to bounce back. Again, you have a couple slow performances in Hunter and Dreco, but really props to New Mexico, because it's felt like they've been comfortable and in control of this since map number 4 kicked off. I mean, it just looks like the players' POVs are relaxed moving around the map. So this is theirs to lose. You need 2 to close it out. You need 5 for Colonel Esports, and well, getting first blooded by Solar once again. Definitely not going to be
0-6 there from Dreco on a donut watch. Thankfully, though, Wagen is there to trade out the kill. Dahmer's in the middle of the map is going to be able to make it yet another man advantage for the Lobos here in the round. Roque, long-range shots with the MP40 will connect. Hunter now in a 1 versus 2. Was able to find the first, has information on where Maddie will be in the back. Last time, though, he had a... I mean, I guess it was an icy clutch in the 1 versus 1, which was a 1 versus 4 at one point, but was able to go ahead and win the round for his team. Now playing all the way in the back, he's going to have information that Hunter's pushed up to the site, but now Hunter knows that Maddie's all the way in the back lines. 18 seconds left. You have to go for the kill and or the defuse. The doors have been knocked out. You're going to hop on that defuse, and as Hunter will get some shots from Maddie across the map. We are now at match point here in map number 5. At least for the moment, it doesn't seem like the bad juju came from round number 1 after that elimination in that B-bomb fight.
He said it was going to be a firework of a finish for a game number 5, and it has been just that. New Mexico, they can taste the victory here, having to battle back from adversity. Not quite a reverse sweep, but a series where they definitely were feeling the heat at some points. Find themselves up 5-1 in the game number 5. We wondered if they could replicate the same style of gameplay that got them a win in map number 2, and it seems like they've done that and a bit better at that. So now, just needing 1 round here on defense at that to close this out. It's going to be a 4-hit coming in through this A site. New Mexico, are they going to be ready for it? And as these players quickly move through B, a pinch play could develop and blow this up, but it's going to have to be quick.
Be back on the site. 3 versus 2. Colonel Esports, they're going to have to win 5 rounds straight if they want to take this search and destroy here in map number 5. This has been a great start to what needs to be a perfect game of S&D here on out. Maddie all the way in the back line, though, will find the first. That's 4 in a row. 2 more in this round will only get him to 6, so it won't be enough for streaks, even if he's able to clutch it. But of course, that wouldn't matter if we got to the end of the round here, since they are at match point. 5-1 in the rounds, 2 versus 1 still, and you have to get across the site, and nobody from Colonel Esports wants to make the move out of any corners.
And I love that from them, because they just know they don't want to cost this round. But as I say that, Maddie gets behind 1. And, well, if he can find this last kill, this could be the clutch up that he needs to win it. C-Mac is going to have to challenge in this window. The timing doesn't work out. I thought for a second if he had held that for a moment longer, it could have panned out for them. Colonel Esports, they get it done, but like you said, that's 1 of 5.
I thought maybe just for a second that pre-aim of the window there could have cut down C-Mac, and maybe you get that defuse if he gets there at the worst time. But as he turns back around, he was just trying to get to a play where if he got challenged, he could go ahead and get that kill, cut him down, and then hop the defuse immediately after the fact in a desperate attempt when the time was running down. So there's the first round on the board there for Colonel Esports in quite some time. New Mexico still have quite an advantage here, and it doesn't look like they're going to have any jitters or any want to slow down. As you start making your way out over towards the B side, it's been a 1v1 with Windows throughout the entire year for many players across Vanguard. You're finally able to break through on the second attempt.
Draco now getting a couple kills on the board in the late game of the Search and Destroy, and they really split a 1-2-1 hit through the map 2 in the mid-map to lock things down. Wajan playing deep down that B Street lane, and in a 4v2 situation, Colonel Esports have seemingly come alive here in the Search and Destroy. That's going to be a very clean round out of them, chipping away round by round. Now find themselves just needing 3 more to take the Search and Destroy. 1 for New Mexico. Man, I want to call one way or the other. I do. You see a team win a couple rounds in a row, and you want to start to lean their way. We've seen teams collapse with a 5 to whatever lead and unable to close out maps. I'm so interested to see how this finishes, because for Colonel Esports, it would be comeback of the century. For New Mexico, quite the opposite. But just needing 1 round on defense here, New Mexico having put 2 down on them. Gonna try to find a way to clutch up here and close the series out.
Trying to get iced up here in map number 5. Draco with the bomb in hand, working its way over towards B. Spotted out 1 in the middle with C-Mac, who is now going to make his way up and towards this A site, but the bomb has made its way over towards B. So if C-Mac's able to get some good information on somebody who's playing inside of this A site, or catch one on the rotation back over, it would be big. But since that bomb doesn't go down, now you're left in a 3 versus 4, and what would have been otherwise a phenomenal play there to get time in your favor, now you have to fight from the outside in once again with 15 seconds left.
C-Mac still has the potential to make a big play here. Does just that, get shots onto a second at least to pepper him up and cause some confusion, but Wajan gonna have to back down. They do have complete control if you are New Mexico on this B site and where this bomb was taken down, but I don't know that they have complete information on where these last 2 players are. Getting the kill on Wajan is huge, because now that allows you to open up and kind of look around at where they could come from, but the play has to come in quickly if you are Colonel Esports to make this happen. A 1v2 situation, 20 seconds left. There just might not be enough time, and the players know where you're at.
It went from being the best position possible for Colonel Esports to now being a terrible one. Out the doorway, though, C-Mac will find the one-on-one kill. You look all the way over towards the left. You know where that last player is by the dock side, and of course that bomb's still inside of that B site. You have to challenge Solar here. You have to win the one-on-one. Solar is going to be able to take it all the way in the back. University of New Mexico take it 6-3 in game number 5. They will keep their season alive against Colonel Esports, who are basically in a must-win situation going forward. That might have just been what kicks the Calvin over, forces them 6 feet under, and knocks off their run inside of this season of the CCL.
Colonel Esports team heavily favored coming into this matchup, but we said anyone can come in and win on any given night. New Mexico, they come in and do just that. Solar at 10-6, Maddie at 10-5, Dahmer's at 5-7, but someone who started off that Search and Destroy very hot. Again, players that just slowed down untraditionally and unconventionally for Colonel Esports. C-Mac having a great performance, Wajan playing well as well, but when only 2 players are stepping up to the plate, and 3 at least for the opposition are, that's just such a hard thing to counteract, and something they weren't able to take advantage of. New Mexico, props to them and hats off for the effort they put on. Starting in map 4 and pushing it through this, it just looked like a completely different team.
What a fun way to end the night here. Relatively even scoring for across the board when it came to the overall KD ratios of multiple teams and multiple players across both teams, but it was just a better solid Search and Destroy effort there from the Lobos that allowed them to get that game number 5 win. Cash, it was a great series, but there had to be one winner and one loser. It just so happened to be that icing up both of the Search and Destroys yet again were enough for the side of a team to win here on the Bravo side of things. Instead of our first best of 5 series, it was the side of Miami Redhawks that were able to not only take themselves to a game number 5, but be able to take that after taking the S&D in map number 2. And then here inside of this series, once again, it was the double S&D performance from the side of the University of New Mexico that allowed them to take this best of 5 series as well. If that doesn't prove to you that S&Ds win championships, I don't know what does. Again, none of these teams are technically champions just yet, but at least in these series to keep their seasons alive, that's absolutely the main goal pushing forward.
And again, I can't stress enough how great Game 5 reps are. If I'm, any team playing in a series, I love seeing Game 5 reps because it puts you in that under pressure situation where it's do or die. Again, whether it's an elimination match or not quite a championship yet, it gets you that practice. And as we get into playoffs, I expect to see more and more of these Game 5 situations come up because teams are putting everything on the line for the win. Unfortunately for Nickel State, it doesn't pan out. And for New Mexico, you clutch up and you put up where you need to. And, well, after the assassination in the first round, you put your money where your mouth is and close the series out in a strong and dominant fashion. So upsets pulled off. Your fate still undecided. You still have some work to do for New Mexico, but you've all but sealed the deal. And like you said, put the nail in the coffin for Colonel State in their run here in the playoffs.
Been another great day of matches here on the Alpha and the Bravo stream, but that's going to do it for tonight here on the Bravo broadcast. I'm pretty sure Alpha is done as well. So with that being said, we will see you back here tomorrow at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for more matches inside of the CCL playoffs on Bravo and on Alpha alike. You can catch that again here tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to keep up with all the CCL action, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at CollegeCod or follow the Bravo and Alpha channels respectively across the boards here on Twitch. Again, that's going to do it for myself and Cash tonight and everybody else on the production side of things here for the Bravo stream. We appreciate you for tuning in. We want you to have a safe night, and we'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock for more CCL playoff action.